Hey everybody, Tyrone Shoes here, and today we're in beginner's corner and we're going to learn how to use the metronome to make chord changes. If you were to come to my home for a lesson, you would have your notebook, of course, and we would have learned just the shapes and the fingerings for E, D, A, C, and G, and also E minor, A minor, and D minor. That information is pretty widely available. Just make sure that you finger G like this. This is our folk G. There's a rock G with 4 fingers, and that's fine, but they're not really substitutes for each other. They have different purposes. We're going to be, the first one you should learn should be this one, because you're going to get more use out of it most of the time, at least at first. Now, don't use your first finger, because to get from G to C is much easier doing it this way, and also G sus4 and G7, all those are much easier to get to from this than from here. Also, one other thing, A, I learned A like this, and that's fine, but it's actually better intonation if you do it how I'm doing it now, which is put your second finger on the G string. You get your fingers closer to the frets when you make the A like that. I think it's a better way to do things, especially if you're just starting out. Learn it this way. It's the better way to go. Even though it's a little harder to remember, this is all in a line. It's easy to remember, but this sounds better, and eventually it's easier to execute, and it also makes certain changes easier. It's kind of nice to have. All right, so once you know those, or at least can research and look up those 8 chords, in your notebook I would write, if you were my student, 18 to 20 of these really common chord changes. A minor to C, A minor to E, C to D, D to G, etc. And you'd have about 18 or 20 of those, and what you're going to do is you're going to set the metronome to 60, and you're going to assume a 4-beat measure, which just means count to 4. And what you're going to do is you're going to take each pair and you're going to strum on 1, just beat 1, that's it. And that leaves you 3 beats to get to the next chord. And then when that gets easy and you'll see your fingers waiting, then you go for 2 strums, and now you only have 2 beats to get there. So we're closing the hole is what we're doing. And then we'll do 3 and eventually 4. So here's the metronome. And 60, you can go slower if you like, but 60 is a safe tempo that most people can feel. When it gets too slow, it gets hard to lock in with. So 60 is where I usually like. If you can feel it at 56 or 54, go for it, but 60 is fine. So if I'm going to do, say, A minor to C, you always count yourself in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you strum once. Uh-oh, now I got 3 beats to, what's that C chord again? Here it is. Here it is. 2, 3, 4, and 4. Okay, I'm waiting on it now, which means, okay, if it's that easy where I'm waiting it, I'll try 2 strums. Now I have less of a hole. 4 and 3, and I gotta get back, and when your fingers are sitting there waiting, I'm waiting on it. So now let's try 3 and 4, and here we go. 1, 2, 3. Now just 1 beat. Whoops. 1, 2, 3. Oh no. 4 and. Okay, so there it is. Now, if I'm not huffing and puffing and struggling, I'm going to go to 4 strums. It is. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to mark your progress in pencil. You're going to have, as I said, 18 to 20 of these chord pairs written, and in a little superscript, above left or above right, whichever you're comfortable with, write whatever amount of strums you had, whether it's a 3 or a 2, like on the harder ones, like C to G. And that's such a common change, and it is one of the harder ones, but it may be the most common chord change in acoustic guitar, so there's no getting around it. So you mark your progress in pencil, and the next day you start at that number, whatever it was, 2 or 3. When you get to 4, you only need to practice that pair for a minute. So what happens is, if you've got, say, 20 of these, and if I say 5 minutes on each, that's 100 minutes. If you have 100 minutes, that's great, but most people, you'd be lucky to get half that. So you do half of the list one day, and you do the second half of the list next day, rinse, lather, repeat each day. And at the end of the day, you're going to, after a week of doing this, you're going to have a lot of 3s. You might have some 4s, and some of the harder ones still might be at 2. So the ones that are at 4, again, those you only need to practice those for a minute, and then the rest of them you're still going to do for 5 minutes. And once you get them at 4 strums, then you'll be able to do a more complex strum. Because if I'm doing C and G like this, whoops, come on, playing time, Robert. If you're going to do this, then you can do a complicated strum like maybe still a quarter note at the end, so it's the same amount of time for the chord change. But I wouldn't attempt that until you can get to 4 strums on each chord. Now we're going to do a song called For What It's Worth, and it has E, A, and there's a D chord and a C chord in it as well. And these are going to be single strokes, so this is perfect for learning chords. And you're going to strum every 4 beats, at least the first part. There's an E. Now we're going to do an A. And that'll go back and forth. There's 2 times before the singing comes in. Here's the second time. Now, there's 4 for the verse. Something here. What it is, etc. Back, clear. And there's 2 more of these, right? There's a man over there telling me. Now, after this last line, to beware. Here's the chorus, and it only happens once. And it's 4 chords. Now D, quickly. Now A. C. What's going around? And then you go back to your E and A thing. Twice without the vocals and 4 with the vocals. And that's the whole song. So you can, if you just want to count numbers, it's 6 without the vocals, and then your fast part, which is every 2 beats. And at the end of the song, it does this part 3 times. Just on the last verse. That's it. Last time. And there's one more. Here we go. What's that sound? Everybody look. And then end on an E chord, and that's the whole song. Now let's talk about a couple of shortcuts. E to A. Here's E. And here's A. Well, you pick these 2 fingers up. What you're going to do is you're going to use the G string as a track, and we're going to push our first finger forward and surround it with the remaining 2 fingers. And then to go back to E, we pull it back and throw these over top. Push forward and surround, pull back, throw over top. Push forward and surround, pull back, throw over top. Alright, so then for the chorus it's E to D, and again we're going to use the G string as a track, but we're going to throw our fingers under. So we play the E, and actually this will surely be one of your chord pairs, so you can, again, use the G string as a track, push forward, throw it under, pull it back, throw it over. Push forward, throw it under, pull it back, throw it over. Alright, so now the D to A is the next change, and that's the first finger stays still. Kind of cool. First finger stays in place. And then A to C is not that common to change, but if we have the middle finger stays put. See that? A, C, A, C, and unfortunately from C back to E, you just got to pick it up. There's no shortcut at all. So I would leave the metronome at 60. When you get better at the song, you can certainly move it up a little bit at a time. If you have I would go 2 clicks if you have a standard metronome. If you have a digital metronome, which almost everything is these days, 4 to 6 beats a minute is enough. And I think the goal is somewhere around 80, somewhere in there. Yeah, that's too fast. There we go. So here's 84. It's about right. What it is. That's right about right. It's in that ballpark. So if you start at 60, then maybe 66, maybe 72, 76, 80, 84, something like that. But you want to start at a playable tempo, and I'm going to have a video on how to find playable tempos for more complicated things. That will be part 2 of this little series. So we'll see you in the next video.